For this project, we are going to be making our fall theme inspired ghost. We've practiced this already, but today we're going to make our final. So to start, make sure you write your name and flip with your pencil. Now, just like we practiced, we need to make our drawing in pencil first in case we make any mistakes. What we also want to think about too is how big or how small you're making your ghost. You want your ghost to be perfectly sized right in the middle of your paper. If you're lost on the steps, you can always use your drawing guide on your table, but step number 1 is a curved line which is going to form the top of our ghost's head. So I'm working with my paper facing vertical, which means the skinny edge of the paper is facing up. And to start, I'm working lightly in pencil. I'm going to make my curved line in the middle. Be careful you don't make it too big or too small. We want it to fit perfectly right in the center. So I'm going to start with a curved line like this, half circle, semicircle. Then off of this, we're going to extend our lines down with straight lines with a little bit of curve at the end. What you did on the left, also do on the right. The bottom will get connected with a wavy line. Now your wavy line is completely up to you if you want to make it a big wavy line, small wavy line. I'm going to make it a pretty even wavy line. And if you want to do a little extra loop at the end, you can. If you make a mistake or need to adjust, just use your eraser. Next is our little ghostly arms. You can do your arms facing in or facing out. So in would look something like this, and out will be outside of the body like this. Here is where you get to use your own artistic judgment. If you want the arms both facing in, do it. If you want them both facing out, do it. You're allowed to change up the arms however you want them. Next, we have to do our faces. Now, faces or expressions can be different. So looking at your drawing guide, you can see a surprise face, a scary face, totally and completely up to you. The face should have eyeballs, and we're gonna keep it simple and just do a mouth, no nose, okay? Perfect, so my ghost is completely in. Before we do the next step, if you need to adjust anything or change anything or add anything, do it now before we do the next step. The next step, we're gonna be using our oil pastels to create shadows and our outlines. What I'd like you to start with is your black, and I want you to outline all of your pencil lines with your black. Now with the oil pastels, they are like a softer crayon, so you can just see even where I'm touching it, it's getting oil pastel everywhere. So if you touch your paper with oil pastel on it, you're going to get those smudge marks. Or if you swipe your hand across your paper with the oil pastel, you're going to get the smudge marks. So be mindful of that and be very careful. To start, just outline everything like you're tracing. Perfect, so now that my ghost is fully traced, you can see where I went off of my pencil lines a little bit. Totally fine, because we're gonna start smudging our oil pastels to create really cool shadows. Now using your finger, and I know you're gonna get a little bit messy, we're gonna create shadows, and I'm gonna do them underneath everything that I just did. So with my eyeball, I'm just gonna smudge it. And I'm gonna smudge here. If it goes off your line a little too much, it's completely okay. Those shadows look really nice. If for some reason it's not smudging, it just means that you need more oil pastel. So if that becomes the case, put more oil pastel on your paper and then smudge it. What that smudge does is it creates a value in your ghost, which makes it look like it's popping off the page. Once we're done, we are going to start painting the background. I do have pretty messy fingers, so before we move to the next step, make sure you wash your hands. So for our backgrounds around our ghost, we are going to be using our neon tempera cakes. These are the paints that you need to wake up with water before you start painting. We have our water cups, we have our paper towels, and our paints. We are only painting around the ghost. Now I'm letting you pick how you paint, but I would have you think about designs, think about different patterns. The only place you are not allowed to paint is on top of the ghost. So I'll let this part fast forward so you can see my whole painted background. What's nice about these paints too is they also glow under a black light. So you'll notice too, as you're adding your paints in, it'll start to dry really fast. Once it's dry, you can go in with more layers of color to darken it up. You can also do the opposite and take part of your paper towel and blot the paint, and it will create a really cool texture. So if this is something you want to do, just make sure your paint is wet and then go ahead tap, or you can add in the color after. When you're all done with your painting, pick it up like a pizza and bring it over to the drying rack. Make sure all your paints and watercolors get taken care of. For one last extra bit of detail and a pop of color, we're going to be using our paint daubers to add dots to our background. Now, since our daubers are new to the art room, some of them have not been used yet. The way you use these is there's a sponge on the top, and underneath there's a little lever. To turn it on and to have the paint go to the sponge, you have to tap it on a piece of scrap paper and the paint will come down to the sponge. It's super important with these that you don't squeeze these. If you squeeze the paint out the sponge too hard, it's gonna shoo out of there and you're gonna have way too much paint. So with these, we're gonna do dots or just taps of the color in our background. So I'm gonna be using orange to start. So what you're gonna do is just tap and you're gonna fill in and overlap with those taps for the extra burst of color. All right, I'm just gonna look at my whole entire piece and make sure it's where I like it. Now's your chance to add any extra dots. You'll also notice too how I'm not jabbing the dot into the paper. If you do that, it will spray out. I also did not do any of the dots on top of my ghost. Since there is paint in our paint daubers, we need to make sure this goes into the drying rack, and after it's dry, we will upload it to Artsonia.